What up, Net fans? NetsBoy here bringing your latest in your Brooklyn Nets news. So, the NBA playoffs just got underway, and the Nets are currently down 0-2 to the Hawks. So, both games were very similar. Both games, the Nets came out kind of sluggish, and the Hawks developed a lead early on, but the Nets battled the whole game and put themselves with an opportunity to win down the stretch, but just could not execute well down the stretch of the games. And like I said, happened in both of them. Game one, game two, almost identical in how everything happened, and it was very interesting to see. The takeaways from these games has kind of been more or less the fact that I am pleased that the Nets have been in both games and have played well in both games. Well, I won't say they played well, but they were competitive, and that is all I could really have asked for from them. But I will say this: it's a little disappointing that they did not win at least game two, because they had a great opportunity to win game two. Game one, they were down by as much as 17 points or 16 points, and I was very pleased that they battled back and were in striking distance but fell a little bit short. But game two, they were there the whole way and had a chance to tie the game, and that piece of crap Darren Williams, why is he taking the big shot down the stretch? I don't know. Darren Williams was 1 of 8 that game. He did have 10 assists, but he is not a good player. He's not, okay? He for what he's getting paid, he's most overrated player, overly paid player, extremely overrated, though I think people are no longer overrating him, but still, definitely overly paid. I think he's the most overpaid player in the NBA. Maybe Joe Johnson is around there as well. Oh, wait, they're both on the Nets. But Joe Johnson at least has some credibility to his contract. I mean, Joe Johnson, when he got that ridiculous contract, was probably one of the best two guards in the league. When Darren Williams got his big contract, he was still a good point guard. He signed the extension, but it was based off of his previous experiences of being one of the best point guards in the league. Joe Johnson, I called him point guard accidentally. Joe Johnson, when he took that contract, he was at the best shooting guard. Like, it was a debate. When Joe Johnson got that contract, it was like Kobe Bryant, Dwayne Wade, Joe Johnson. And maybe, when Joe Johnson got that contract. And when Darren Williams got his big contract, he was arguably a top 5 point guard, but he was not, where he was, like he was in Utah. So, but the point is, he's extremely overpaid and he's extremely useless. And, why is he taking the shot in that situation? I would have done a classic pick and roll, maybe get the ball to Lopez. That's another thing. Lopez has had a very good series, but he's not really being the focal point of the offense. And I don't know if Lionel Hollins is doing that on purpose, because part of the reason why the Nets struggled, like the last few games that got blown out, was because teams were focusing on Lopez, and if Lopez struggled, the team struggled. So I think that Lionel Hollins is intentionally not using Lopez as much as the focal point of the offense to try to make it so teams can't hone in on him. That being said, I think you got to start playing through him more. Much more pick and rolls. Get the ball a little bit more in the post with them. Because Joe Johnson has shown glimpses of decency, but still he's not good enough to carry the team. And Darren Williams is a piece of crap. And, they need Lopez. Paul Pierce, I didn't really talk about this last episode, and I'm going to talk about it now, had a statement about the Nets saying that there's really just no leadership. That's really what he meant when he said what he said about, when he was there, him and KG didn't understand why the negativity of the team and all this stuff, and that nobody took charge. Really what he was saying is there's no leadership on the Nets. And, I kind of have to agree with that. You look at the Nets team, there's not one guy who's a vocal leader, a guy who can say, let's go, guys, let's bring it together. That should be Darren Williams, since he's getting paid to be the point guard and being that guy, but there's nobody. It would be kind of Joe Johnson, but he's kind of a quiet character. Lopez, he's certainly not going to get... It should be Darren Williams, but he's... And that's what Paul Pierce meant, though, by those comments about the Nets, is mostly he's just saying, look, this Nets team is good, but they don't have the leader. And they don't. Look, when the going got tough for the Nets, there was no one who stepped up and led that team. You know, that's why a team can be in the playoff hunt and get blown out by 20 points in 2 games. Because they don't have a guy who says, we need to win. Let's go. Let's make this happen. People, there's no one. You can tell that. The personalities on the Nets, you can see it. There's no true leadership on that team, which is ultimately why this team is going to it struggles, you know. You need leadership. You know, and that was the one problem trading away Kevin Garnett did, is they got rid of the one leader of the team. He was the voice. But that being said, I mean, I don't want to go too much into details with Paul Pierce's comments. I think Paul Pierce, you know, is an idiot. Though right now, you know, the Wizards are up 2-0. That's impressive. In that series, Cleveland is up 3-0. You know, Chicago is probably, I'm actually, you know, I do this the day before I post the video, so actually that game is going on as we speak. It's in the second overtime, but I think Chicago is going to be up 3-0. Who knows, against Milwaukee. There has not been a lot of splits so far, but, you know, overall the playoffs have been pretty much what I expected it to be. I don't know what's going on with the Raptors. I kind of am shocked the Raptors lost 2 games at home. What's going on? I mean, maybe injuries are really still hindering them. I actually have not been watching that series, so I'm not sure if Kyle Lowry is back yet. He was hurt towards the end of the season. I don't know if he's back. So I don't know. I really don't. Because if he's out, that would explain it. Really makes tons of sense why the Wizards are up 2-0 in that series going to Washington. But if he's playing, I'm be a little confused of why the Raptors are losing to the Wizards, because I think the Raptors are a better team than the Wizards. I don't believe in the Wizards, but whatever. That being said, you know, like I said, I'm looking at the Nets and the Hawks, and the truth is, you know, the Nets have been in both games. The key for the Nets moving forward is they've just got to execute down the stretch of games. They really need a player to step up. Brook Lopez has done great. He's scoring 20 points and getting at least 8 rebounds, and, you know, he's playing good defense. He's doing his thing. Joe Johnson has been okay. You know, he scored 17. I actually don't remember how much he scored in the second game, but he was a factor. He was there. But Darren Williams is useless in both games. Jarrett Jack had a good game, I know, in the second one. He had 23 points, so he at least picked it up. I mean, they just need a little bit more. What they need a guy who can help them down the stretch of games. I mean, down the stretch of the game and execute and be that guy. It really should be Joe Johnson or Darren Williams, but, you know, I don't know. Darren Williams, it's tough. But like I said, I have been very pleased that the Nets were competitive. And moving forward, I think the Nets will win one of the next 2 games in Brooklyn. I think they'll win Game 3, to be honest. I think the momentum's shifting to Brooklyn. I mean, not the momentum. The series shifting to Brooklyn. They've got, you know, they've realized that they've really been not outmatched in either game. You know, that they're hung around and that it's going to be a grind. I think that they're going to finally prevail in Game 3, and the Nets will win Game 3. Game 4, I think, will be a complete toss-up, but I'm going to probably say the Hawks will win Game 4 and probably end up winning Game 5 back in Atlanta as well. So, that being said, I said it would be 5 games, and this is the way I'm picking it. This is actually kind of what I expected, and I think the Nets, though, will come out aggressive, and I think they'll win a game in Brooklyn, either Game 3 or Game 4, hopefully Game 3, because that gives them a little bit more of a chance. But, you know, I keep my fingers crossed. Maybe the Nets can prevail, but it's going to be tough. But there is one awesome thing. Mirza Teletovic came back in Game 2. He played only 4 minutes, missed both his shots, but either way, Teletovic, woohoo! You know, maybe he can get a couple more minutes and he can play and become a very useful player for the Nets, you know, down the stretch. Sorry, there's something on my screen. But anyway, you know, that would be very interesting moving forward, I think. So, you know, if Teletovic can play, get him some quality minutes, you know, he only played 4 minutes, but maybe if we can give him like 12-ish minutes and provide an offensive spark, that could really help the Nets. You know, remember the one game against the Heat, last year in the second round of the playoffs, it was Teledovich's big game that the Nets won. So I think the Nets can win a game here in Brooklyn, and I think they're going to be competitive. I think as long as they're competitive, like I said, I don't have expectations of them beating the Hawks. I just want them to win at least one game and be in every game. And so far they're doing that. But really, Darren Williams needs to stop being a piece of crap. You need a little bit more out of Joe Johnson. Brook Lopez, you're doing what I'm expecting you to do. You need a little bit more from the bench. Boyan Bogdanovic. We need a little bit more. We need a little bit more from everybody. And I think the Nets could win a game or maybe even two in Brooklyn, which would be fantastic. But it's going to be tough to see. So basically, to sum up the video, I think Paul Pierce is correct in the sense that the Nets do not have true leadership, and that someone needs to step up for the Nets, whether it's Joe Johnson, Darren Williams, Jarrett Jack, Brook Lopez. Brook Lopez could step up too. I mean, he's the only one I feel like he's doing an adequate job, but he could still do better. But only time will tell. So they need a little bit more, and they need to play better, and they need to they're right there, and I think they could win a game or two against the Hawks. And the Hawks are they're just a better team, but I think the Nets could pull one off, and we'll see what happens. So they play on Saturday, and then I believe they play again on Monday. I actually have to check the playoff schedule, either Monday or Tuesday. But they play again on Saturday in Brooklyn. That's what the Nets got to focus on, and hopefully they win one, if not both, of the games in Brooklyn. So that was this episode of NetsBoy. The next one will probably be after Game 4. And who knows what exactly I'll be talking about after Game 4. Maybe it will be the Nets, if even the series, or so, you know what I mean? Maybe it'll come at the end, the end of the series. Either way, keep your eyes open for the next NetsBoy, and we'll see what happens going forward with them in the playoffs. So, I didn't really talk about any of the other teams in the playoffs. I don't usually talk about other teams unless it's the end of the round or if a team got eliminated. But I'm basically everything that's happening with the other teams I've expected, except for the Wizards Raptors series. That's the only series that I'm a little baffled about. Other than that, everything makes tons of sense moving forward. Teams that are leading. The Rockets are 2-up on the Mavericks. I didn't really expect that, but the Mavericks have not been the same since Rondo came to the team, which is funny. So I'm not super shocked. But just really the Washington-Toronto series has me a little confused. But, we'll see what happens moving forward. So we'll see about next episode. We'll see what the Nets do. We see what everything goes on, and we'll see. So until next time, this is NetsBoy, signing off.